Yo, Joe Bart post. Can't skip a Joe Bart
Got a
video.
great business idea?
Next
Give it a
video, guys. Next video.
domain name from GoDaddy. Every order.
The king born with liquid bones and a skull full of water.
Look at any royal portrait. You
My
see
bad for
divine
laughing. My bad for
bloodlines,
laughing. But
perfect
damn.
genetics, rulers chosen by God himself. These people had everything: power, wealth, the best of everything life could offer. You're looking at a lie. The most powerful royal family in Europe didn't fall from grace. They destroyed themselves from the inside out. Their pure bloodline became so contaminated that their final king couldn't close his mouth, couldn't chew food, couldn't produce an heir. His own mother recoiled in horror when he was born. But before Charles II of Spain became a
But it wasn't like a small... Dude, it was a slow descent into incestual madness. Like, do you think they ever went, maybe we should stop our cousins because you're starting to have health problems? Like, they were never like, you know, this is becoming an... Did they know? I always wonder that. I don't know. Did they know in that time that, like, incest caused those issues? Or were they just like, we're getting unlucky on health problems right now? Like, everybody's coming out with fucked up problems with their lungs or kidneys or... No? Why are you asking us? I don't know. I think generally my chat would have broad knowledge.
medical impossibility. Before his jaw protruded so far he drooled constantly. Before his body failed at every basic function. He was heir to the greatest empire on earth. This is one of the only documented cases in history where we can see exactly what happens when humans push genetics past the breaking point. Modern scientists who analysed his DNA found something that shouldn't be possible. He was more inbred than if his parents analysed
He was going
when
laugh.
humans push genetics past the breaking point. Modern scientists who analysed his DNA
He was
found
going
something that
laugh.
shouldn't be point.
Laugh.
We can see exactly what happens when humans push genetics past the breaking point. Modern scientists who analysed his DNA
Oh
found
shit.
something that shouldn't be
He was
possible.
going laugh.
He was more inbred than if his parents were siblings. What you're about to see is both tragic and terrifying.
How is he more inbred than if his parents were siblings? That doesn't make any fucking sense. What? How can you be more inbred than if your parents are siblings? Like you're fucking your mom or some shit? Like what is that? What do you mean? I'm sorry I turned away there. I did not expect this very fully generated image to show up where he's just staring.
You're about to see is both tragic and terrifying. It's the story of how the most powerful dynasty in the world turned their own bodies into a biological nightmare. Let me take you back to November 6th, 1661, to a dimly lit chamber in the royal palace of Madrid. The midwives have just delivered the heir to the Spanish throne and something is terribly wrong. The baby's head is grotesquely large, his breathing laboured. But here's
I'm not trying. I'm getting ready. I'm trying to get ready. This is just, the images he's throwing up that are fucking like, this is like an AI generated image. Like, I mean, this is just fucking crazy right now.
Crazy,
But what they're
dog.
saying, he came out like Megamind.
large, his breathing laboured. But here's what the history books don't tell you.
Mega man.
His own mother, Queen Mariana, reportedly shuddered at the sight of him and refused to nurse her own child. This
Oh my God, bro. I mean, like, it's leading up to this where it's like, bro, like she had sex with her brother. Or like, how did he come out like that?
wasn't maternal cruelty. This was instinctive horror. You see, Queen Mariana wasn't just Charles's mother, she was also his cousin.
What?
Just Charles's mother, she was... This was instinctive horror.
Hold up.
You see, Queen Mariana wasn't just Charles's mother, she was also his cousin.
What?
How?
That's not making sense. She was his mother, but
Also his cousin?
Meaning their parents... Oh my God. Their parents' siblings were the same. That's not making sense.
That don't
So
make
she had
no
sex with her
sense,
dad?
His aunt.
What the
How
fuck?
is that possible?
She's his mom, his aunt, and his cousin. Explain.
His aunt. How is that possible? Because his father, Philip IV, had married his own niece. If you're trying to work out...
His father
His father
married
married
his
his
niece.
niece.
So his mom married her uncle.
Now that family tree in your head right now, don't bother. It's not a tree, it's a circle.
That's not making no
But to
sense.
understand
Like, what you say?
right now, don't bother. It's not a tree, it's a circle. But to understand
You just like fully just tried to encapsulate what I'm thinking. He's like, it's not a tree.
A tree.
It's just fucking. There's
it's
a loop going
it's a
on.
circle.
Okay.
how we
Alright,
got to
makes
this
sense,
moment, to
makes sense,
understand
makes
how a
sense.
baby could be born so genetically compromised that his own mother recoiled.
Oh my god, dude! It's just like random generations of being like, this person's with their cousin, and then their cousin ended up getting with their mom's sibling, their aunt.
We need to go back further. Way back to when the Habsburg dynasty first discovered the dark magic of keeping.
I hope he shows like a full lineage of the Habsburg family. Where were they? Where were they kings of? Spain. When though? They ruled from the 13th century until 1918.
What?
So like World War One.
AI
Damn.
can build an entire app in a
Alright.
minute, while the only AI most
that's
people
a
over 40
dynasty.
know
What
is
the fuck?
ChatGPT.
1300
power in the family.
to the
literally.
1918s.
The Habsburgs had a saying,
Fuck.
let others wage war,
Talk about power,
you,
boy.
happy Austria, marry. It sounds romantic until you realize they meant marrying each other. For almost 200 years, the Spanish branch of the Habsburg family had been marrying cousins, uncles, wedding nieces, and in some cases double first cousins uniting in matrimony. They called it maintaining the purity of blood. Scientists now call it genetic suicide. Here's a number that will blow your mind. Over 80% of Spanish Habsburg marriages were between close relatives. Not distant cousins you might meet at a family reunion.
Not like a third cousin. Wasn't it legal in the United States to marry your third cousin? Because you're so distantly related that the odds of genetic issues are low.
Shared grandparents, or in some cases, parents.
They shared parents, so you're saying they're siblings.
By the time Charles II
parents,
was
it's
born,
crazy.
all 8 of his great-grandparents descended from the same couple, Philip I and Joanna of Castile.
Wait, what?
What? Hold on,
Of his
I'm so
great
confused.
parents.
This always fucks me up, dude. I feel like this whole video is gonna feel like when somebody tells you a story and they're like,
Gotta
"Yeah,
lace it back.
my brother's girlfriend's sibling's friend
What
Lost
the
me.
fuck?
lost me. Don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
By the time Charles II was born, all 8 of his great-grandparents descended from the same couple, Philip I,
All 8 of his grandparents
We're together.
had the same parents. How is that
Wow.
fucking possible?
and Joanna of Castile, every single one. Modern genetic analysis has calculated Charles's inbreeding coefficient. That's the percentage of his genes that were identical copies from common ancestors, at 0.254. To put that in perspective, children of brother-sister incest have an inbreeding coefficient of 0.25. Charles II was more inbred than a child of siblings.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
Than a child of siblings coefficient of 0.25. Charles II was more inbred than a child of siblings.
How is that possible? How is that possible? That doesn't even make fucking sense. That's like that's like literally you're trying. Wait, now I'm gonna ask a really crazy question. What would the inbreed coefficient be of fraternal twins? It says 0.25. Full siblings and fraternal. Oh, are fraternal siblings not? They're not identical. Can you have identical siblings that are not? Identical siblings are always the same sex, right? Almost always. How could they not be?
But numbers don't capture the human cost. Let me paint you a picture of what this meant for a living, breathing child. Baby Charles couldn't suckle properly. His mouth was already showing signs of deformity. His skull bones hadn't fused properly, leaving his head misshapen and swollen. The court physicians noted he had a weak suck and struggled to feed. In an era before formula, this was life-threatening. The wet nurses hired to feed him reported something disturbing. The infant rarely cried, not because he was content, but because he seemed to lack the energy. He would lie there, pale and still, his oversized head lolling to one side, his breathing shallow and raspy. The physicians, the best in Spain, were baffled. They'd never seen an infant so fundamentally broken. As months turned to years, the true extent of Charles's condition began to reveal itself. And this is where
Yeah, as he aged, dude, he probably got way more problems.
the story gets truly disturbing.
Crazy.
At age 4,
I'm not laughing. Stop looking at me. Don't look at me right now. Do not look at me right now.
years old, Charles still couldn't walk. Not wouldn't, couldn't.
It's not the
Wow.
fucking story that's making me laugh. It's the fucking imagery. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yes, that's it.
What is this? What is this image that I'm staring at? They just like, why is the kid fucking
But blue.
Charles still couldn't walk. Not wouldn't, couldn't. His legs were thin as
The
sticks,
pictures
bound
got
from
me too,
rickets,
bro.
unable to support even his small body weight. Servants carried him everywhere in specially designed chairs. The future king of Spain had to be carried like an infant. But wait,
I mean, they weren't going, maybe we gotta try again. Like, I'm actually asking this. If you are the king of Spain and your child needs sticks wrapped around his legs, he has to get walked everywhere, his skull didn't fuse, and you're going, yeah, it's because I fucked my sibling. Like, maybe you're probably going, maybe let's take it out of the family for this go around, right? Maybe we'll put him to the side for this. He's gonna rule Spain? Like, that's insane.
it gets worse. At 4 years old, Charles also couldn't speak. Not a single word. His tongue, already showing signs of abnormal growth, filled his mouth. His jaw, that infamous Habsburg jaw, was already protruding. When he finally did speak his first words, sometime after his 4th birthday, they were slurred, wet, incomprehensible. The court
What is this image, bro? I'm actually...
chroniclers delicately noted that His Majesty's speech required interpretation. Let me
Shit.
describe what they meant by that. Charles's tongue was so enlarged that it constantly protruded from his mouth. His lower jaw jutted out so severely that his lips couldn't close. This meant that when he attempted to speak, saliva would pour from his mouth. Royal attendants stood ready with silk cloths to constantly wipe the drool from the chin of the boy who would be king.
I mean, the workers had to be talking to each other about it. If you're one of the fucking midwives and you're sitting there going, dude, this kid is fucking, like, I mean, bro, they're fucking siblings and they're having children. I mean, like, this is what's happening.
Habsburg jaw. If you've never seen it, imagine a normal human skull, then grab the lower jaw and pull it forward several inches. Now imagine
So, like, my jaw already sticks out. Out there? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. It's all the way out here. Like a... No.
that the upper jaw didn't grow to match. The result?
I'm looking up Habsburg child side profile.
A mouth that can never fully close, teeth that can never meet, a tongue with nowhere to properly rest. In portraits, artists tried to minimize it, painting Charles with his mouth slightly open as if caught mid-word. In reality, his mouth was always open because it couldn't physically close. Foreign ambassadors meeting the young prince for the first time often struggled to maintain their composure. One French diplomat
Yeah, bro. Like, imagine you're like, and the king dies, and now it's Habsburg the king. He's 10 years old.
Yeah, can't
Oh,
speak.
well, nice to meet you. And he's just fucking sitting there, you know, like, he can't speak. I mean,
private letters describe the shock. The prince's appearance defies description. His jaw protrudes so far that he appears to have two faces, one stacked in front of the other.
What?
When he attempts to eat, food falls from his mouth. When he speaks, one must stand back to avoid the spray. And eating. God, the eating.
That image is crazy, though.
Everybody's out there trying to bring home the bacon.
Charles couldn't chew. Think about that for a moment. Every meal, every day for his entire life, Charles II had to swallow his food whole like a pelican. His
how the fuck did he eat food? They didn't have blenders then. Did they mush it up before?
teeth,
Crazy.
upper and lower, were separated by such a gap that they never met. Court dining became an exercise in creative cuisine. Meats had to be cut into tiny pieces, vegetables were pureed, bread was soaked in wine until it dissolved. The English ambassador, Alexander Stanhope, wrote one of the most visceral descriptions. His Catholic Majesty swallows all he eats whole, for his nether jaw stands so much out that his 2 rows of teeth cannot meet, to compensate which he has a prodigious stomach and swallows a whole lamb at 2 meals.
What?
But physical deformity was just the beginning. As Charles grew, or rather failed to grow properly, other problems emerged. He suffered from constant illnesses. Measles nearly killed him at age 6. Then came chickenpox, which left him
I'm surprised he didn't die, like, at birth.
covered in scars,
Crazy.
then rubella, then smallpox. Each disease that swept through the palace found in Charles an eager host, his compromised immune system offering little resistance. The smallpox was particularly cruel. It struck when Charles was 9, and for weeks he lay between life and death.
That's
His face,
crazy.
already distorted, became a
Dude, see, what's weird is, like, they're describing what he looks like, but they're using AI imagery of a kid with a regular jaw.
battlefield of pustules and lesions. When he finally recovered, the scars joined the catalogue of his disfigurements. But the disease left something else, a complication that would haunt him forever. The physicians noticed fluid
Look at the family tree. Fine. Okay, so this is his family. So, Philip and Joanna, regular, right, had sex. Kids. Boom, 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 boom. They, normal relationship. Then they bring it down. Here's where we start the inbreeding. These two are cousins.
Cousins.
They pop out Anne, who fucks her
Yeah,
uncle. And they pop out Philip.
Philip.
Philip gets
is
with Margarita, who is another
uncle
individual
and
that had who is also getting with somebody whose mom slept with her uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pop out Philip the Fourth.
Mm-hmm.
How does Philip's then Philip has a kid. Wait.
What?
Philip
and Maria
is with Maria. No. Philip and Maria are siblings.
are
Philip
siblings.
has sex with his sister's
It's
kid.
a kid. What the fuck? Who is
And
also
he's already inbred from 2 second cousins
Maria-
already get
Hold up. I'm trying to understand this tree right here, cause hold up. What the fuck? Hold up. So we had Philip right now. So Philip and his sibling Maria. What the fuck? So he had a kid with his sister's daughter, which is her uncle. But Maria's mom and dad are already cousins. Which Manana dad is a child inbred from his mother and father, which are first cousins. Oh my god.
with people that had their niece. Their niece and uncle did it. So that's both of his parents. And both of her parents. And they were first cousins. Oh my god. And I didn't even look at this side. This is insane. This is actually insane.
that would haunt him
Wow.
forever.
That is
The physicians
crazy.
noticed fluid building up in his skull.
That is
His already
crazy.
large head began to swell further. Today we call it hydrocephalus, water on the brain. In the 17th century they called it another curse upon the prince. The pressure caused blinding headaches, vision problems, and possibly contributed to the seizures that would plague his later years. By age 10, Charles's education was a source of palace scandal. Not because he was rebellious or lazy, but because he simply couldn't learn. Tutors reported that lessons had to be repeated dozens of times. Basic mathematics was beyond him. Latin, the language of royalty and diplomacy, might as well have been ancient Egyptian. His handwriting, on the rare occasions he attempted it, looked like the scrawls of a much younger child. One tutor's private notes, discovered centuries later, paint a heartbreaking picture. His Majesty tries with great effort but retains nothing. I explain a concept, and by the next day, it is as if he has never heard it. His attention wanders. Sometimes he stares at nothing for long periods. When asked what he is thinking, he cannot say. But here's where the story
I love how this AI image has this guy dressed up in like a suit with like a very notable world map, like detailed. These images suck.
takes an even darker turn. As Charles entered puberty, or what should have been puberty, his body betrayed him in new ways. He grew, but barely. While other royal teenagers shot up in height, Charles remained stunted. His voice, instead of deepening, stayed high and thin. Body hair? Barely any. The characteristics that marked a boy becoming a man simply didn't happen. The court physicians were consulted. In hushed conferences, they discussed what they observed but dared not put in official records. The prince showed no interest in women, no interest in men.
They were gonna try and get him to have a kid. They were gonna go. Well, I mean, he's gonna have to. What? They were like, he has to have a kid.
Oh boy, niggas got something.
They were gonna try and get him. What would his kid? His kid wouldn't even make it out. Would die. His kid would die in infancy.
Wow.
There's no.
And either, for that matter. He seemed to exist in a strange, childlike state. Neither boy nor man, but something in between. This terrified the court because Charles had one job above all others: to produce an heir. The entire Spanish Empire, stretching from Europe to the Americas to the Philippines, needed the royal bloodline.
Bro, they're cooked. We looked at the family tree. Even if his parents, the only chances if one of his fucking parents got with somebody that was fully unrelated.
Continue. But how could a man who couldn't grow a proper beard father children? At age 18, they decided to find out. Charles was married to Marie-Louise of Orléans, a 17-year-old French princess who was by all accounts beautiful, intelligent, and healthy. The contrast between bride and groom shocked wedding guests. She was radiant. He was ghastly. She walked gracefully down the aisle. He shuffled, supported by attendants.
Why do you have a
When it
skeleton
came time
arm?
for the kiss, observers noted that Marie-Louise had to steel herself visibly before leaning in. The wedding night
So she did not want to be with him at all.
was a disaster. Not the kind of disaster that makes for funny stories later, but the kind that determines the fate of empires. Charles, it became clear, was completely incapable of consummating the marriage. Not unwilling, incapable. His body simply didn't function as a man should. Marie-Louise, raised in the sophisticated French court, tried everything. She was patient. She was kind. She even, according to palace gossip, tried to instruct her husband in the basics of marital relations. Nothing worked. Years passed, no pregnancy. The Queen underwent humiliating examinations to determine if she was the problem. The physicians declared her
Are you
perfectly
fucking
What
kidding
the-
me?
what
Are
the
you
f-
fucking kidding me?
These niggas
Are
are
you
s-
fucking kidding me?
Ain't no way.
This is
No.
happening, and they're going, let's
Oh,
take
no.
a look at the
God.
woman.
What the fuck?
Maybe she just
She's
can't
the
get
problem.
pregnant.
She's the
Maybe
problem.
it's the fucking Habsburg kid whose fucking parents and parents are all fucking related and just been having sex with their siblings for fucking 10 generations.
Wow.
I mean, what are we doing?
What a deal. That's crazy. They went and examined the
problem
wife.
everyone knew, but no one would say officially, was the king. The pressure was crushing. Both Charles and Marie-Louise were subjected to increasingly desperate fertility treatments. She was forced to drink vile concoctions of herbs and animal organs. He was made to consume potions that included ground pearls and bull's blood.
What? What? Is
That's-
that supposed to be him? They made him drink fucking bull's blood so he could try and have a kid.
At one point, the court brought in a specialist who prescribed eating the dried penis of a stag. Nothing
No,
because
bro.
nothing could work. Charles's reproductive system was as
That
malformed
dude
as
had
the
some
rest of him.
Viagra in them times
wait,
there. He would have been
The
straight.
story gets even more bizarre.
Would've
How
been
does it get more bizarre? You're just telling me the doctor came in and said, "Hey, you got to eat this dried bull. You got to eat this dried horse dick. Hey, sorry you can't get it up. Maybe this will help."
Charles's mother, desperate for a grandchild to continue the Habsburg line, consulted with mystics and holy men. One suggested that Charles was cursed and that sleeping next to holy relics might break the spell. When that failed, she escalated to something that still shocks historians. She had her son sleep next to corpses. Yes, you heard that.
What? She made him sleep next to dead body. Bro, they're not even using him to rule. They're just going, we got to skip this gen. Right? That's what they're saying.
We gotta skip
Which is
this
so
gen.
weird to me. Like, why wouldn't they just try to have another kid? They're going, nah, we're still going to have Charles II have a kid, but he's not going to rule. We're just going to try and fast track this so we can skip it.
this chin.
Right.
They had him sleep next to dead bodies.
Queen Mother arranged for Charles to spend nights lying beside exhumed bodies of saints and former kings.
Oh my God, exhumed bodies of saints.
Wow.
So they were pulling like fully fucking decomposed bodies out of the ground. So he could sleep next to them, so that would make his fucking sperm work.
Including his own father. The
He
theory
had to sleep next to his... I mean, dude, talk about not even ever being able to be aroused again. Hey, sorry you're not able to fucking have a child. You're going to sleep next to your dead dad that's fucking decomposing.
Babe, you wouldn't believe what just happened.
What happened?
So I was talking to my friend Mish, and she said her...
Picture it. It was that the holy essence of the dead would somehow cure his impotence. Picture it. The King of Spain, drooling and malformed, lying next to decomposing corpses in the hope of gaining the ability to father a child. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of failed attempts, 10 years of
10 years of trying to have a kid. So from 18 to 28, he tried to have a kid and couldn't.
humiliation. Then, Marie-Louise died suddenly at age 26.
Wow.
The official cause was listed as appendicitis, but rumours swirled. Had she been poisoned? Had the strain of her situation driven her to suicide? We'll never know. What we do know is that Charles was genuinely devastated. Despite everything, he had grown to love his wife, perhaps the only person who had shown him real kindness. Within months, the pressure to remarry began. The council selected...
Remarry? Give it up! Give it up! Oh my God! What did they do after this?
Maria Anna of Neuburg, a German princess from a famously fertile family. Her parents had produced 17 children. Surely the advisors reasoned such robust genes could overcome even Charles's deficiencies. They were wrong. Maria Anna, despite her healthy lineage...
I mean, bro, he's probably just infertile. His semen's probably just not working.
Doesn't
never
work.
became pregnant. Not once. By this time, Charles's health had deteriorated even further.
What is this image?
Courtiers whispered that he looked like an old man, though he was barely 30. His hair fell out in patches. His teeth, what few could be seen behind that protruding jaw, rotted and fell out.
His teeth were rotting and falling out, and he was 30.
Shuffled when he walked, when he could walk at all. The seizures started in his 30s. Without warning, Charles would collapse, his body convulsing, foam mixing with the ever-present drool. When he recovered, he often didn't recognize the people around him. He began talking about seeing ghosts, hearing voices, feeling invisible hands touching him. The court was terrified. Was their king going mad on top of everything else? The nickname El Hechizado, the Bewitched.
Did he, like, make rules in this era? Was he, like, an active king that had to control the nation?
Took on new meaning. People genuinely believed Charles was under a curse. The Spanish Inquisition got involved. Exorcists were brought in. At one point, the king's own confessor was arrested on charges of using witchcraft to worsen the royal condition.
Oh, dude,
The trial was a sensation, though of course
boy didn't
no
ask for
amount
none
of
of this,
exorcism
boy.
could cure genetic
Boy,
damage.
he's dealt with
Charles
a
himself
shit
believed he was
hand, boy.
cursed. In lucid
Shitty
moments, he
hand.
would weep and ask what he had done to deserve such punishment. He wore amulets, carried holy relics, and submitted to increasingly bizarre purification rituals. Nothing helped, because nothing could help. His genetic code was his curse, written into every...
Dude, I feel so bad. Like, it's not even his fault.
Yes, exactly.
Like, his fucking family just kept it in the bloodline for so long that he was the final result. And he's sitting there not even realizing, like, oh, it's because my family's sleeping with each other. He thinks he's, like, been cursed by God.
By age 35, Charles looked ancient. Contemporary descriptions are hard to read. His skin hung loose on his skeletal frame. His famous jaw seemed to grow even more pronounced as the rest of his face wasted away. He was completely bald, his scalp covered in sores. He could barely walk, shuffling a few steps before needing to rest. His speech, always difficult, became nearly impossible to understand. But the worst was yet to come. In his final years, Charles began to mentally deteriorate rapidly. He would sit for hours, staring at nothing, drool pooling on his clothes. When spoken to, he often didn't respond. When he did speak, he rambled about demons and angels, about his dead wife, about children he would never have. The king of one of the world's greatest empires had become a hollow shell. The end came in 1700. Charles was 38 years old, not elderly by any standard, but his body was shutting down. He couldn't eat even his specially prepared mush. He couldn't stand without help. He spent his days propped up in bed, gasping for breath, his hydrocephalic head causing unbearable pressure. On November 1st, after days of agony, Charles II died. What happened next would shock even the physicians who had treated him for years. The autopsy. Oh God, the autopsy.
They did autopsies then?
If you thought The Living Charles was a medical horror show, his corpse was something out of
Oh, they're about to say they cut up in his body and his fucking, like, his lungs were the size of, like, fucking acorns.
a nightmare. The royal physicians tasked with embalming their king cut open the body and recoiled. Their report, written in clinical Latin but dripping with barely concealed horror, described a body that shouldn't have been able to sustain life as long as it did. His body did not contain a single drop of blood.
What?
This wasn't...
What? What the fuck?
He didn't have blood. He didn't have blood in his
He
body.
didn't have
How was he
blood in
alive?
his body.
That doesn't make any sense.
That don't make
Poetic
no
exaggeration.
sense.
Maybe he had less blood than other
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Duration.
That's not
Charles-
possible.
Charles's circulatory system had essentially shut down. His blood either clotted or simply absent. His heart, and this is where it gets truly grotesque, his heart was described as the size of a peppercorn. Not
What is a peppercorn?
literally that small, but shriveled, blackened, barely recognizable as...
A peppercorn's like this big. So he had a small heart. His heart wasn't like a regular, like, like fist
peppercorn.
softball. It was like a tiny heart.
the organ that should pump life through a body. His lungs were corroded, their word for what we might now recognize as massive scarring from repeated infections.
Wow.
Imagine lung tissue that looked more like pumice stone than organs meant for breathing. His intestines were described as rotten and gangrenous. Parts of his digestive system had literally died while he was still alive, explaining the horrific pain he endured in his final years.
Dude, he had organs that were dead in his body for years.
But the most telling detail, the one that confirmed what everyone suspected but no one had dared say officially, Charles had only one testicle.
You sent in a proposal, but your manager has
Bro,
so many
This ad came in at
questions.
the right time, bro.
They never checked. They never, bro. I would be like, yo, we got him. You got any bowling balls hanging down there, boss? I mean, they never looked. They were like, how many nuts you got?
It was black as coal.
Ugh.
This single, atrophied, dead piece of tissue was all that remained of what should have been a functioning reproductive system. No wonder he couldn't father children. It's a miracle he survived puberty at all. And his brain, remember that oversized fluid-filled head? The physicians found it was indeed full of water. The hydrocephalus had left barely any room for actual brain tissue. How Charles had managed
So he had a small brain too.
to function at all, how he had managed to speak and think and rule, however poorly, was a medical mystery. The physicians who performed this autopsy must have stood there, covered in the gore of their dissection, and marvelled that this collection of malformed organs had somehow sustained life for nearly 4 decades. Every system was compromised. Every organ was damaged. It was as if Charles's body had been at war with itself from the moment of conception. Modern genetic analysis has given us the why behind this horror show. Remember that inbreeding coefficient of 0.254? That means a quarter of Charles's genome consisted of identical copies of genes.
What? So anything that was like a mutation would be brought out more? I always understood inbred mutations as things that would regularly be submissive traits that would be bad for your health are usually not bad because your partner has opposite genes or different genes from you. So a lot of those traits are masked. But if you have somebody that's equal to you, all of those bad traits will immediately come out.
Sequences lurk the instructions for his destruction. Scientists now believe Charles suffered from at least 2 major genetic disorders. The first was combined pituitary hormone deficiency. His body couldn't produce the hormones needed for normal growth and development. This explained his short stature, his inability to sexually mature, his muscle weakness, his cognitive problems. His pituitary gland, the master controller of the endocrine system, was essentially non-functional. The second was likely distal renal tubular acidosis. His kidneys couldn't properly regulate his blood chemistry. This caused the rickets that bent his legs, the muscle weakness that left him unable to walk and possibly contributed to the hydrocephalus that swelled his skull. Either condition alone would have been challenging. Together they created a cascade of failures throughout his body. Add in the Habsburg jaw, itself a genetic condition called mandibular prognathism, and you had...
Do you think, like, early humans, they didn't know? Like, when did humans realize... The scientific understanding of why inbreeding is detrimental developed with Charles Darwin, first experimentally demonstrating the negative effects in the 19th century. Get the fuck out of here. So they had no idea. There had to be some cause and effect type shit, though, where it was like people having sex with their siblings usually led to issues.
Had a perfect storm of genetic disasters. Some researchers have proposed an even rarer possibility, a lysosomal storage disease called aspartyl-glucosamminuria. Patients with this condition develop normally for their first few years, then begin showing delays. By adulthood, they have coarse facial features, intellectual disability, and shortened lifespans. The match with Charles's symptoms is eerily exact. But here's the truly horrifying part. Charles wasn't uniquely unlucky. He was the inevitable result of systematic inbreeding. Of the 34 children born to Spanish Habsburg monarchs, more than half died before age 10. The dynasty
And they never went, this is bad?
was literally breeding
Oh my god, but they had no idea. They probably just thought it was like, oh shit, RNG. They literally were like, oh, this is just unlucky.
itself to death,
Or curses.
and Charles was simply the final, most extreme example.
What the fuck are you watching? You're too late, brother. You're coming on the back end of this.
When Charles died without an heir, it triggered the War of Spanish Succession, a conflict that would reshape Europe. The Spanish Empire, built over centuries, shattered because one man's body was too broken to produce a single child.
Oh
The
shit.
Habsburg line that had ruled Spain for nearly 200 years ended not with the assassination or a revolution, but with a king so inbred his own flesh betrayed him. The Bourbon dynasty that replaced the Habsburgs
But do you think his parents were also somewhat inbred? Like, I wonder if they had any showing or physical issues whatsoever.
learned the lesson. While royal marriages remained political,
Because it seems more like all the people that were having inbred issues died before 10, and everybody else was just fine.
autopsy, the tragedy of a king who couldn't chew his own food, these became cautionary tales whispered in royal courts across Europe. Charles II remains in medical textbooks as the ultimate example of genetic collapse. Students studying genetics see his portrait and learn about inbreeding coefficients. His Habsburg jaw has become shorthand for the dangers of closed gene pools. In a strange way, his suffering contributed to our understanding of heredity and the importance of genetic diversity. But beyond the medical curiosity, beyond the political consequences, there was a human being. Charles II lived every day in a
Yes.
body that was failing him. He
You're
endured
right,
Oh
you
my
bro.
god, and how
You're
fucking
right.
terrible everybody fucking
He
treated him,
married in the
dude.
family to keep the
I mean,
money and the
obviously
power
they were
from
treating his
diluting.
wife bad too, saying she was part of the
Facts.
reason, but they never really looked at him in a light of, like, positivity. It was always just like, you need to have a kid. Your body's fucked up. Like, he doesn't know that already.
constant pain, humiliation,
And then his mom making him sleep next to dead bodies, bro.
and the knowledge that he was failing in his most basic duty as king. He was mocked as the bewitched, when his only curse was his ancestry. In his final letter, dictated because he could no longer hold a pen, Charles wrote about hoping to find peace in death that had eluded him in life. For a man who had endured 4 decades of physical and mental anguish, who had been propped up on the throne like a grotesque puppet, death must have seemed like mercy. The portrait I mentioned at the beginning? It hangs now in the Museo del Prado in Madrid. Visitors pause before it, struck by the obvious deformities even the court painter couldn't fully hide. But now you know the truth behind that image.
Yeah, and that's how they made him look good. So he looked different from that.
You know about the jaw that couldn't close, the tongue that couldn't fit, the body that couldn't function, the genome that had turned against itself. Charles II of Spain wasn't cursed by witches or demons. He was cursed by his own family tree, a tree so tangled it had become a noose. His story stands as perhaps history's starkest warning about the dangers of genetic isolation. In trying to keep power in the family, the Habsburgs destroyed their own bloodline. The next time you see a royal portrait, remember Charles II. Remember that behind the crowns and scepters and royal grandeur,
I wonder if after this, there was like no, like this was probably a huge turning point because there was incest in many royal families. And I feel like this probably had to be like a turning point of like,
turning
yeah, this
point,
is
yeah.
definitely bad.
biology always has the final say. And sometimes, that final say is horrifying beyond imagination. If this story shocked you, hit that like button, because the algorithm, unlike
Oh my fucking God. All right, that was a good video though. Even though the AI images were unbearable.